Have you ever felt like you walk around your own home on eggshells? Like the air is thick with tension and one wrong move or word could trigger a massive storm? Your home, the place that's supposed to be your sanctuary, has turned into a minefield rigged with invisible rules. If that sounds familiar, then this video is for you. We're not here to talk about loud, dramatic, shouting matches. We're talking about a quiet, creeping horror, the 7 insidious, unwritten rules a narcissist establishes at home to control absolutely everything and everyone. And trust me, some of these rules are so subtly complex, you'll be shocked you never noticed them before. Think everything in your family is perfectly fine? Let's check. You might actually be living under these laws right now without even realizing it. Before we dive in, let's quickly define what a narcissist is in the context of home and family life. Forget that myth about someone who just spends too much time admiring themselves in the mirror. This goes much deeper, and it's far more dangerous. Narcissism is a disorder fundamentally driven by a bottomless emotional void. To fill that void, the narcissist needs a constant supply of admiration, control, and power. And where is it easiest to establish that supply? You guessed it, their own home, which they transform into a small kingdom where they are the sole monarch. These strange rules aren't just eccentric quirks or symptoms of a bad temper. They are carefully engineered tools designed to prop up their fragile self-esteem and maintain absolute control over you. They create an environment where you are constantly second-guessing yourself, and they are always right. So, buckle up. We are about to dive deep into the narcissist's world of household laws. And here it is, the first and most fundamental rule, the cult of personality. In the narcissist's world, there is only one star, one sun, and every planet revolves around it. That star, of course, is the narcissist himself. This rule permeates everything. The prime spot on the sofa, his. The choicest piece of dinner, also his. And the TV remote, that is the sacred scepter, held firmly in his hands. Every conversation, sooner or later, must pivot back to their persona, whether it's their brilliant insights, their difficult day at the office, their latest incredible success, or their totally unfair grievances. Just try to turn the topic onto yourself to talk about your own troubles or triumphs. You'll instantly feel the temperature drop or be met with a dramatically bored expression. Your experiences are merely irritating noise, a distraction from the main show. Imagine a home where every mirror is tilted inward, designed to reflect only one person. To exist in that space is to slowly become accustomed to your own invisibility. So, how is this cult of personality actually sustained? It's maintained through a strict system of unspoken rituals, a mandatory regime of worship. For instance, you are required to greet him when he comes home from work with an utterly enthusiastic face, regardless of how miserable your own day was. You have to listen to the same heroic story about his great feat for the 10th time, maintaining unwavering interest. You must praise him for the most mundane tasks, like changing a light bulb as if he just achieved a major scientific breakthrough. Any criticism, even the softest remark, is immediately treated as high treason. The punishment is either stony silence or a furious outburst. In a household like this, your opinion only holds value if it perfectly aligns with his own. Gradually, you stop articulating your own desires and needs simply because you know they will either be ignored or ridiculed anyway. Your primary role is to be an audience member, clapping on demand and providing the narcissist with the essential fuel, the supply, without which he simply cannot exist. This isn't a partnership. It is servitude. Living by the rules of a personality cult completely devastates your self-esteem. You start doubting your own worth. Your thoughts, feelings, and achievements begin to feel utterly irrelevant. you turn into a shadow, nothing more than the serving staff for one person's ego. This rule is the foundation for everything that follows, because once the narcissist successfully devalues you, they gain carte blanche for all future manipulations. He plants the idea deep in your subconscious. There is only me, and you are merely a function. The most horrifying part is that over time, you actually start to believe this premise. You find yourself scrambling to please, preemptively anticipating his every mood just to keep the fragile world of his self-satisfaction intact. You stop living your own life, completely dissolving into his. This is the first step toward the complete loss of your identity, and the narcissist executes it with surgical precision. Let's move on to the second rule, which is arguably just as disturbing. This is the total control of information and communication. The narcissist must be the sole source of truth in their little world. He decides what you get to know, who you are allowed to communicate with, and who is off limits. This can start innocently. For instance, with phrases like, "Why are you hanging out with that friend? She's a terrible influence on you." Or maybe, "Your parents don't understand you. I'm the only one who truly has your best interests at heart." The goal here is simple: to isolate you from outside sources of support and alternative opinions. Anyone who might open your eyes to what's really happening is immediately labeled an enemy. He might check your phone, read your texts, and monitor your calls. All of this is presented under the guise of care and jealousy. "I'm just so worried about you." But in reality, he isn't afraid that someone will hurt you. He's afraid that someone will tell you the truth about him. This control over information extends to everything that happens inside the house. The narcissist creates their own version of reality, and you are expected to fully adhere to it. If they claim you were in a bad mood yesterday and ruined the entire evening, then that's the truth, period. Even if you remember the events completely differently, they will constantly twist the facts, deny things they clearly said, and accuse you of things you never did or said. This is textbook gaslighting in action. They act as the sole censor and editor of your shared history. To guests and friends, they will spin an idealized narrative of your life, where they are the heroic protagonist and you are merely the happy, grateful companion. Any attempt you make to reveal the real situation will be instantly framed as a lie, an exaggeration, or proof of your emotional instability. They control not only your present but your past as well, systematically forcing you to doubt your own memory and sanity. Now for the third rule, which defines the very atmosphere of the home. Let's call it emotional monopoly. In a narcissist's world, there is only room for one set of feelings, his own. If he's happy, everyone must cheer up and celebrate. If he is angry or sad, the entire family must walk on eggshells and mirror his misery. Your own emotions simply do not count. Worse yet, they are considered inappropriate or even offensive if they fail to align with his current state. Imagine you had a great day at work. Something wonderful happened, and you rush home, eager to share your excitement, only to find him in a terrible mood. That happiness is immediately shut down. You will be accused of being selfish and insensitive. "How can you possibly be happy when I feel this terrible?" is the typical line you'll hear. In short, your feelings are simply not allowed to exist. This emotional monopoly forces you to bottle up your true self. You learn to scan his mood the moment he walks through the door, immediately adjusting your behavior to match his vibe. Happiness? It must be concealed if he's having a bad day. Sadness? Don't dare show it if he wants to have fun, or you'll instantly be labeled a downer. Anger? It is strictly forbidden because rage is a privilege reserved only for him in that house. You turn into an emotional chameleon, completely losing touch with yourself. A narcissist is incapable of empathy. He simply cannot relate to or validate your feelings. Instead, he perceives your emotions as direct competition for attention. If you cry, you are stealing his spotlight as the central sufferer. If you laugh without him, you invalidate his sense of importance. Ultimately, you are left completely alone with your feelings, trapped in total emotional isolation, even when you are sitting right next to another person. What makes this tactic so devastating is the narcissist's active invalidation of your feelings. He'll tell you things like, "You're overreacting," "You're blowing things out of proportion," or "It's just your hormones talking." He makes you believe that your emotions are fundamentally wrong, inadequate, or irrational. This is yet another powerful tool of control. Once a person stops trusting their own emotions, they become incredibly easy to manipulate. You start thinking, maybe I really shouldn't have gotten so upset. What if this is all my fault? The narcissist strips you of your internal compass, the feelings that signal when something is wrong. He replaces that compass with his own navigator, which always leads to one destination, his comfort and the satisfaction of his ego. It leaves your soul like scorched earth, where nothing can flourish or grow without his express permission. So that brings us to the fourth rule, which we can summarize as double standards are the absolute law. The narcissist operates with two rule books, one for them, the great and irreplaceable individual, and another for everyone else, meaning you. Things that are strictly forbidden to you are not just permitted for them. They consider it their inherent, undeniable right. For instance, they can show up 3 hours late without a word, and it's simply chalked up to important business. But if you are 15 minutes late, expect a grueling cross-examination and accusations of profound disrespect. They are free to flirt with others right in front of your eyes, but God forbid you even smile at someone else. They can trash the whole house because they're tired, yet you are required to maintain absolute, pristine order. This list goes on and on. If you try to point out this glaring double standard, you'll be met with either a furious outburst or an air of condescending confusion. He genuinely doesn't see the issue. In his worldview, he is the exception to every rule. He's above it all. He might use phrases like, "Don't compare yourself to me," or "That's completely different." He will construct elaborate rationalizations to prove why he's allowed to do something, but you are not. And often these explanations are so utterly absurd that you just throw your hands up, unwilling to engage in yet another pointless argument. Double standards are simply a way to constantly remind you of your place in the hierarchy. There's him at the top, and there's you somewhere near the bottom. This isn't a partnership of equals, it's a master/servant relationship, and these rules are designed specifically to solidify that structure. Living in a world defined by double standards erodes your sense of fairness and leaves you perpetually frustrated. You are constantly on the defensive, always in a losing position, because the rules of the game shift depending entirely on who is making the move. This generates a feeling of powerlessness and hopelessness. You start believing that demanding the same things for yourself that he is allowed is somehow selfish. You become accustomed to inequality and begin to accept it as the norm. The narcissist conditions you into submission and the relinquishing of your own rights. He shows you that the laws of logic and fairness simply do not apply in his domain. Only one rule operates, the law of his desire. Over time, this distorted reality becomes the only one you know, making exiting the relationship exponentially more difficult. You simply forget that things can be different, that they can be fair. The narcissist's fifth domestic rule is cultivating an atmosphere of constant unpredictability and chaos. You never know what mood he'll be in when he returns home. Will he be kind and generous today, Or will he turn into a raging tyrant over something minuscule, like a misplaced coffee cup? This life lived on a volcano keeps you perpetually on edge. You cannot relax in your own home because you are always anticipating the catch and always waiting for the other shoe to drop. The narcissist instinctively understands that someone in a constant state of anxiety is far easier to manipulate and control. He deliberately does not want you to feel comfortable or secure. Security fosters confidence, and a confident person poses a direct threat to his need for absolute control. That's why he creates these emotional roller coasters, cycling between intense periods of idealization where he showers you with love and compliments, and swift, cold periods of brutal devaluation. This chaos isn't just about mood, it infects the rules too. What was perfectly acceptable yesterday might be strictly forbidden today. The very thing he praised you for will become grounds for criticism tomorrow. For instance, one day he says, "It's wonderful how proactive you are," and the next, when you show that exact same initiative, he snaps, "Who asked you to get involved?" This is maddening because you can't establish a working model of behavior. You are constantly making mistakes no matter what you do. Every single one of your mistakes becomes an opportunity for the narcissist to criticize you, lecture you, and reassert his own infallibility and your flaws. He creates a game without rules, a game you can never win. The sole purpose of this game is to keep you confused and completely dependent on his momentary whims. You stop trusting your own understanding of the situation and begin to rely solely on his reactions. Living in such an unpredictable environment utterly drains your nervous system. This often leads to the development of anxiety disorders, panic attacks, chronic stress, and depression. Your body and mind are constantly stuck in fight or flight mode, bracing for the next danger. The narcissist intuitively exploits this tactic, which is known as intermittent reinforcement. It's similar to laboratory experiments. If the reward is delivered randomly and chaotically instead of consistently, the addiction that forms is much stronger. You become addicted to those rare moments of good behavior and are willing to tolerate everything else just to get that next dose of love and approval. This relentless cycle of hope and disappointment binds the victim to the abuser, creating a trauma bond that is incredibly difficult to break. Chaos isn't a side effect of their character, it is a deliberate, conscious weapon. The sixth rule, closely tied to information control, but absolutely demanding its own focus, is the systematic rewriting of history. The narcissist is the undisputed master of gaslighting. He will deny verifiable events with absolute certainty. He twists your memories beyond recognition solely to cast himself in a favorable light. For instance, after a vicious fight where he was verbally abusive, the next day he might casually say, "What are you talking about? We just had a calm discussion. You're imagining things." Or he might pin his own appalling behavior directly on you. "I wasn't screaming, you provoked me," with your hysterical tantrum. He does this so convincingly that eventually you truly begin to doubt your own memory, your perception, and even your sanity. He literally steals your past. The whole point of this strategy is to systematically demolish your confidence in yourself. When a person can no longer trust their own memory, they become completely reliant on the one constructing that reality for them. The narcissist appoints himself the sole keeper of your shared history. Naturally, in his version, he is always the hero, the genius, and the blameless victim of circumstance. Meanwhile, you are unstable, forgetful, and utterly ungrateful. He will flat out deny promises he made or agreements you reached. When you attempt to remind him, he will look at you with wide-eyed surprise and say, "That never happened. You must have dreamt that." This tactic is so insidious and cruel it can genuinely push someone to a nervous breakdown. You become afraid to raise any contentious topics from the past because you know the entire narrative will be twisted and inverted, ensuring that you, inevitably, end up being the one blamed. How do you fight back? The only effective way is to keep meticulous records. Write down events, conversations, and promises. This might sound paranoid, but when you are dealing with a narcissist, it is the only reliable way to stay grounded in reality. When you have tangible written evidence, his manipulations become far less effective. Sure, he might accuse you of distrust or spying, but for you, these notes will be an anchor, a crucial defense against sinking into the mire of his distorted reality. Remember this, gaslighting is a profound form of psychological abuse. Its only goal is to break your spirit and achieve total control over you. If you constantly find yourself thinking, "Am I going crazy?" chances are you aren't. Chances are someone is working very hard to make you believe that you are. Trust yourself, always, even when the entire world, funneled through one person, is trying desperately to convince you otherwise. And finally, rule number 7, the ultimate, crucial step that weaves all the preceding tactics into one unified, suffocating web. This is isolation disguised as genuine care. The narcissist systematically cuts you off from your entire support system, your friends, family, and colleagues. But they won't do this through outright bans or direct prohibitions. They'll use far subtler methods. They will find a fatal flaw in every single person you care about. Your best friend? She's an envious gossip. Your parents? They constantly meddle and are trying to turn you against me. And your colleagues? They are just using you. This is done gradually, poisoning your relationships with others, one drop at a time. They might stage massive arguments right before you leave to meet your friends, ensuring you either show up miserable or cancel the meeting entirely. They will relentlessly criticize gifts from your family or dismiss their advice as absolutely worthless. This entire campaign of isolation is always presented under the guise of exceptional love and care. They use phrases like, "I just want to protect you from the wrong kind of people," or "Only I truly understand and love you," and the classic, "We don't need anyone else, we're perfect, just the two of us." He creates the illusion that he is your entire world, and everything that exists outside of that reality is hostile and dangerous. Gradually, you start isolating yourself, reducing contact with others, just to avoid the endless conflicts and interrogations waiting for you at home. You lose social connections, external support, and any objective perspective. You are left alone with him, trapped inside his reality. This is the ultimate goal. An isolated victim is much easier to control. She has no one left to turn to for help or advice. She becomes completely dependent on her tormentor, emotionally, and sometimes financially. The consequences of such isolation are devastating. You lose not only your friends, but also the part of yourself that used to flourish in their company. You find yourself in a complete vacuum where the only voice you ever hear is his. Your entire world shrinks down to the size of your apartment. If you recognize yourself or your relationship in this description, understand this. This is not love, and it is certainly not care. This is a calculated strategy designed solely to seize control over your life. True love does not isolate you. It expands your world. It celebrates your friends and encourages your connection with your family. If your partner is building a wall between you and the rest of the world, he is not building a fortress for your love. He is building a prison for you. And recognizing this truth is the first and most critical step toward freedom. Don't let anyone turn your life into a solitary cell. So, let's recap. We covered the 7 unwritten rules a narcissist imposes in their home: the cult of personality, total control over information, the monopoly on emotions, double standards, perpetual chaos, rewriting the past, and finally, isolation disguised as care. It's crucial to understand that these are not just isolated bad habits. This is a cohesive, interconnected system designed with one single goal: complete control and subjugation. Each rule supports and reinforces the others, weaving a web that is extremely difficult to escape. Living in such a home is a slow erasure of your identity, your desires, and your will. But knowledge is power. Now that you know these rules, you can spot them, you can name them, and that strips away a part of their destructive, almost magical power. Thank you for watching this video all the way through. If you found this useful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future breakdowns of complex psychological topics. Your support means a lot. Now I have a question for you. Have you encountered these rules in your own relationships or witnessed them in others? Which one of these do you find the most insidious and damaging? Share your story in the comments below. Sometimes, simply sharing your experience can help not only yourself, but also someone else who might be reading right now and realizing they are not alone.